You know exactly who left you, not just who. You know how it felt when they went. There was a specific moment, or maybe there wasn't a single moment, maybe it was a slow disappearing. But at some point you became aware that they were gone, and something in your chest shifted into a position it hasn't fully left since. A hollow. A weight. Something you carry without anyone around you quite being able to see it. And here is what you also know. Even if you've been afraid to admit it out loud, you still think about them. More than you think you should. More than feels reasonable, given everything. You play back conversations. You notice things they would have noticed. You catch yourself sometimes composing sentences in your head that are somehow still addressed to them. Perhaps they left without explanation. Perhaps the explanation they gave made it worse, not better. Perhaps you were the one who said the final words, but you still feel like the one who was left. Whatever the shape of it. Tonight I want to offer you something. Not comfort that papers over the truth. Something more honest than that. Something that will change the way you understand not just what happened between you, but what is still happening right now in ways neither of you can see. Carl Jung, one of the greatest explorers of the human soul who ever lived, spent a lifetime studying the invisible forces that bind people to one another long after the visible connection has ended. He worked with people who could not stop thinking about someone who was no longer in their life. People who felt, with a certainty they couldn't justify, that the other person must still be thinking of them too. People who were told, by friends, by time, by their own reasonable minds, that they should be over it by now, and weren't. Jung had a framework for this. Not a consolation. A framework. He called it the unconscious. And in one plain sentence, the unconscious is the part of the psyche that continues to function, to feel, and to reach toward others completely outside of our awareness or our control. This is the concept that will hold everything you hear tonight. Because what Jung understood, what he observed across thousands of human lives, is that the unconscious does not recognize separation the way the conscious mind does. The mind can accept that someone is gone. The unconscious keeps the connection open. Jung observed that the most significant people in our lives do not simply occupy our conscious memory. They become woven into the structure of the psyche itself, not as memories we choose to access, but as presences that continue to exist at a level beneath thought, shaping how we feel before we even know why we're feeling it. This is not poetic language. This is Jung's clinical observation. The people who matter most do not exist only in our past. They exist in our unconscious, continuously, in a way that has nothing to do with whether we want them there or how much time has elapsed since they left. And this is why what you are carrying right now is not a failure of will. It is not a sign of weakness or an inability to move on. It is a sign that this person became real to you, real in a way that left a genuine impression in the deepest layers of who you are. The unconscious does not imprint randomly. It reserves that depth for what genuinely mattered. You are not broken. You are responding, exactly as the psyche is designed to respond, to a significant loss. Jung would recognize what you're experiencing immediately, and he would take it seriously, not as a problem to be solved, but as something to be understood. But now I want to take you deeper than the title, deeper than the simple recognition that missing someone is normal, because there is a hidden mechanism underneath all of this, and it moves in both directions. You think about them, that much you know. You feel their absence in a way that is sometimes difficult to distinguish from their presence. You carry them. But Jung would ask you to consider something you may have never let yourself fully believe. What if the unconscious connection you feel to them, that sense that something is still unfinished, still reaching, is not one-sided? What if the very psychological processes that make it impossible for you to simply release them are operating in them as well? The unconscious does not belong only to you. Every person you have ever genuinely touched carries the impression of that contact. Not as a conscious decision, not as something they can control any more than you can control your own. The connection that formed between you was not a private event in your psyche alone. It was a mutual event, and mutual events leave mutual impressions. Jung observed that when two people have formed a real bond, real meaning, one that reached beyond the surface, one that activated genuine parts of each other's inner world, the unconscious does not simply note the ending and close the file. It continues. The psyche of each person continues to hold the other, continues to process what passed between them, continues, in its own wordless way, to reach. The one who left is not simply gone from your world. You are still present in theirs, in the same wordless, uncontrollable way that they are still present in yours. Not because love always wins or connection always finds a way. Those are stories we tell. But because the unconscious does not lie, and it does not forget what was real. The pain you feel is not a delusion. It is information. It is your psyche registering, accurately, that something of true significance is still alive, on both sides of the silence. And somewhere in you, you already knew this. Not in the part of you that tries to be reasonable, not in the part that has listened to friends tell you to move on, that has read the articles about closure, that has tried, genuinely tried, to make peace with the absence. But somewhere much quieter than all of that. Something in you already knew that what you feel is not imaginary. Something in you already sensed that the silence between you is not empty, that on the other side of it, something is still moving. That knowing matters. Don't dismiss it. The unconscious is speaking to you through that certainty, and Jung would say it deserves to be heard. Here is the paradox at the center of everything I've said tonight. One sentence. The person who left you is the one who thinks about you the most. This sounds impossible. It sounds like the kind of thing people say to comfort themselves. It sounds like wishful thinking dressed up as wisdom. But Jung would say it is not a paradox at all. It is a consequence of how the psyche actually works. When someone chooses to leave, when they are the one who initiates the ending, who walks away, who closes the door, their conscious mind is doing something purposeful. It is making a decision. It is choosing distance. And on the surface, that looks like the end of the connection. But the unconscious does not receive that instruction. The unconscious was not part of the decision. And because the unconscious is where the deepest impressions of the relationship live, the moments of genuine contact, the vulnerability, the things that were said and the things that were left unsaid, the version of themselves they showed only in your presence, it cannot simply follow the conscious mind into separation. And here is what makes this run even deeper. The one who leaves carries something the one who stays does not. They carry the active choice, the decision that had to be made and then lived with. And the psyche, Jung would tell you, does not make peace with significant choices easily. It turns them over. It revisits them. It brings them back in dreams, in unexpected moments, in a face glimpsed in a crowd that for 1 second looks like the wrong person. The one who left must live with the leaving in a way that the one who was left does not. Because you did not choose this. You were given it. And in a strange way, that makes your grief simpler. Not easier, simpler. It has a clear shape. You know what you lost. The one who left often does not know what they lost until they have already gone. And the unconscious keeps accounting. It keeps showing them. In the quiet, in the spaces between one life and the next, in the moments when nothing in the present is demanding their full attention and something older, something truer, rises to fill the space. You live in those moments for them, whether they want you there or not. And this process, the way the leaving person continues to carry the one they left, moves through its own recognizable territory. You may recognize some of this from the inside of your own experience, or you may be seeing for the first time what might be happening in them. The first is what I call the defended silence. In the immediate aftermath of leaving, the person who went often surrounds themselves with noise and motion and forward momentum. New plans, new people, an almost aggressive focus on the next thing and the next and the thing after that. This is not callousness. This is the conscious mind working very hard to stay ahead of the unconscious, which is already beginning its accounting. You may have seen this from the outside, the bewildering speed with which someone who claimed to care seemed to simply continue. That speed is its own kind of evidence. You do not run from things that have not followed you. The second is the unexpected ambush. This is what happens when the defended silence breaks. It is rarely dramatic. It is a song, a smell, a quality of afternoon light that was present in a specific moment the two of you shared. And without warning, without invitation, the full weight of what was left behind arrives. Not as a decision to feel something, as a wave that has no interest in timing or appropriateness. Jung would say this is the unconscious overriding the conscious structure that was built to contain it. The impression was real. The impression does not stay contained. This is the moment when the person who left thinks about you most intensely. Not with comfort, not with simple longing necessarily, but with a force that surprises them, because they thought they had handled this. And the unconscious is showing them, quietly and without apology, that they have not. The third is the return to the question. At some point, not always but often, the person who left finds themselves returning, in some form, to the question of what was real between you. Sometimes this manifests as a message they compose and don't send. Sometimes it is a search for your name, a brief look at your life from a distance. An old photograph held longer than makes sense. Not because they have reached a conclusion, but because the psyche keeps producing the question even when the conscious mind has decided it is closed. Jung would say that this is individuation pressing itself through the gap. That the relationship contained psychological material, genuine material about who that person is and who they are becoming, that was left unprocessed. And the unconscious will keep returning to it until it has been properly integrated, with you or without you. That work belongs to them now. The fourth is the shape of the absence. This is the phase that lasts longest and shows least on the surface. It is the phase in which the person who left has built a life that looks, from any reasonable distance, like they have moved on. And in many ways they have. They are functioning. They are present in their new life. But there is a specific shape in that life. A shape that corresponds exactly to what you were to them. That remains unfilled. Not because nothing else has been tried, but because you were not interchangeable. You were specific. And the unconscious knows the difference between what was specific and what was merely available. You left a shape in them that nothing else has exactly fit. That is not nothing. That is one of the most real things that can be true about another person's inner life. But here is what Jung would add. And this is the part most people arrive at last, if they arrive at it at all. Everything I have just described about the person who left, the defended silence, the ambush, the return to the question, the unfilled shape. None of it resolves your pain. None of it brings them back, and none of it on its own transforms what you are carrying. Because Jung would turn the lens now, away from them, toward you. The question that matters most tonight is not, are they thinking about me? Even if the answer is yes, and Jung's framework would suggest that at some level it is, that answer changes nothing about the real work that is yours to do. The real question is this. What has this leaving revealed to you about yourself that you could not have seen any other way? Because here is what Jung observed again and again. The people who leave us, the people whose absence becomes a presence we carry, they are almost never simply painful experiences that happen to us. They are mirrors. They arrived, however briefly, showing us parts of ourselves that could only be seen through the reflection of genuine contact with another human being. What did you discover about yourself in this relationship that you had never known before? What capacity for feeling, for depth, for devotion, or for fear, for guardedness, for the way you collapse or expand under the pressure of being truly known? What did this person's presence reveal that you were not aware of before they entered your life? That is yours now. Whatever they showed you, that is not theirs to take back when they leave. It belongs to you. And the question Jung would press you with, gently, but without letting you avoid it, is whether you are going to use it. The shadow work that this loss is asking of you is not about understanding why they left. It is not about finding a way to bring them back or to be the kind of person they would not have left. That framing keeps the power outside yourself. The shadow work is this. Can you take what this relationship showed you about your own depth, your own capacity, your own wounds that were finally visible, your own patterns that were finally legible, and use all of it to become more fully yourself? Not the self you were before them, not the self you were trying to be for them, the self that becomes possible because of what you now know. That is the invitation that is hidden inside this loss, and it will wait as long as it needs to. The psyche is patient with the things that matter. So let me leave you here, in the quiet of this. What you are carrying is real. The weight of it is real. The sense that something unfinished is still alive between you. That is not imagination. That is not wishful thinking. Jung would tell you that the unconscious does not invent significance. It recognizes it, and what you feel is the recognition of something that was genuinely real. You are not wrong to feel it. You are not weak for still feeling it. You are not failing at moving on. You are in the middle of something that takes exactly as long as it takes, because the psyche cannot be hurried through material that matters. What I want to leave with you tonight is not a promise that they will return. I don't make that promise, and anyone who does is not speaking from truth. What I want to leave you with is this: the love that moved through you in this connection, the capacity for depth, for feeling, for truly reaching toward another person. That did not leave with them. It is still in you. It was never theirs to take. And one day, perhaps not today, perhaps not soon, you will find that it has not been wasted. It has been deepened, refined, made more truly your own by the very loss that felt like it was emptying you. You are not the ending of this story. You are someone in the middle of becoming. And the person who left is part of what is making you who you are still growing into being. That is enough. For tonight, that is enough. Before you go, one thing. Tell me in the comments, is there someone whose absence you still carry right now? You don't have to explain it. One word, one name, or simply the word yes. I read every single one, and I want you to know that whatever you're holding tonight, you are not holding it alone. If this reached something real in you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. They may not know they need it, but something in them will recognize it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do that now. Every week we go exactly this deep into the parts of human experience that most people never have the words for. Take care of yourself tonight. You came here for a reason. That reason was already enough.